Hello Mules, welcome to Apex Hours. Today is our sixth session, developing APIs part 2. Okay, so we'll see today's agenda is debugging our application in Anypoint Studio, and we will be discussing about flow reference, attributes, variables, set variable, scope of attributes, payloads and variables, and logger. All these are more kind of a hands-on that I am going to show you. If you haven't downloaded Anypoint Studio and if you didn't start your practice putting hands-on, please try to start it by looking at our previous session. That is very important because we will be discussing more about, I have hardly 10 slides to show, but more parties of hands-on, and these topics are really important to crack MCD level 1 certification exam, and you need more concentration and hands-on practice. As I always say, please try to pause the video, do parallelly whatever I'm doing. You have to do it parallelly on your laptop so that you won't you're not lost anywhere. All right, so just a quick recap of our previous session. We have covered quite a lot in our previous session. We started developing of APIs, right? And we discussed about Mule 4 message structure, that is like Mule event, Mule message. Mule message consists of payload and attributes, and we have variables and error information. We have seen how to download Anypoint Studio, and then I explained the project structure, and we have discussed the main part: flow, subflow and private flow. I told you what are the connectors, and we have discussed two characters and also the transfer message connector in our previous session. And we have built a simple RESTful API, and I deployed it in CloudHub, and I am expecting you to do the same and comment your URL on the comment section. Okay, without wasting time, let's discuss about the flow reference. So if you've seen in our previous session developing of our APIs, we have seen three kind of flows. One is the normal main flow, the other one is the private flow and subflow. And when we are discussing about private flow and subflow, I told you that the way that we can connect to this private flow and subflow is by using flow reference connector. Okay, so that's the reason here we said like it is used to call a subflow and private flow. What are the mandatory configuration details required? I told everything is kind of a configuration here in MuleSoft. So the flow name, the mandatory configuration detail is the flow name that you have to call, and all names, you don't have to type any flow name. All that you have to do is drop down, you will see the list of flows that are present within the Mule application, and you can choose it. That's why we love MuleSoft. All right, and default it is empty. Okay, it doesn't select anything by default, but if you try to use this empty field, your application will fail to deploy, because you have to, whenever you are using flow reference connector, you must choose one of the flows there. All right, so before going to our next slide, let's go back to our Anypoint Studio. So this is our Anypoint Studio. This is the Apex Hours project that I have created last time, and you can see that we have deployed a simple RESTful application which says hello world. This is Shravan Lingam, right? So yep, this is one single flow, and this is called flow because we have source and process, and we have given something in source, that is why it is called as process. Now if you want to split flow, again this is, we are not discussing some real-time scenarios here, but just for your understanding I am saying like let me split this one flow into two flows. Okay, how to do that? Drag and drop another flow. For now I can use flow or subflow, doesn't matter. I'll drag and drop here down. I told you like it's always best practice to give the proper naming. Okay, so I'll say like private flow here, and what I can do is, instead of using this transfer message here, I can put that inside a private flow. It is very easy. You don't have to again drag and drop from Mule palette. What you can do is you can click this, drag it to the process phase. Okay, now it's very easy, right? Like it's like clicks and dragging and dropping, all those stuff, right? Now this is your listener which listens to your request. Okay, yesterday we have seen localhost blah blah blah. And one more thing guys, I will recommend you to download a tool called Postman. Postman is a tool where you can test your APIs, just like, you know, we used Chrome earlier, right? So we used Chrome here. So you can just yesterday we have seen like localhost 8081 test like this, but it's always best to use Postman tool for testing our APIs. We are doing the same thing. I will just copy whatever is there here. right? Localhost 8081 test, and I will keep it here, and you can do the same stuff like this. Okay, right now my application is not in a deployed state, that's why it is giving give me 1 second, let me put it here. That's the reason it is not working, because my application is not running yet. But imagine when you are sending the request here, this is where you will receive the request, and after here there is nothing here. First of all, the application won't deploy because process should not be empty. Okay, but consider that you are sending request here, this listener is listening to your request, but is there anyone who is listening to your request? Is there something like you are processing here? No, right? So but you have something here, transfer message. Now you want to connect this flow to this private flow. How can that happen? That is where the flow reference comes into picture. Okay, if you don't find in the Mule palette, just search it, flow reference, this is the one, and I am placing it here. I told you mandatory configuration or default there is empty. Here you can see flow name. What you can do is drop down, you can see the list of flow names that appears in the drop down list. One is the Apex Hour flows, which is nothing but this one. You cannot reference your own flow again here, right? All that you want to do is you want to connect to this particular flow, private flow. So what you can do, what is the name of this private flow? Private flow itself. So drop down, you will find that name, just select that and save it. That's it. So what happens is the request comes here, then it goes here. As you are calling this flow, it will come here. So how to see that whatever process I'm showing you, right? The request comes here, then goes here, then it comes here. How to see from our side, right? That's where debugging of an application helps. Okay, if you remember in the last session, we tried to cover debugging of the application in Anypoint Studio, but we didn't have time because it's already like 1 hour session. So now we can see the debugging of the application. Again, debugging of application is just for your reference to see how the request is being processed step by step. Very simple, don't get confused. Okay, so to do debugging, what you should do, all that you need to do is put a debugger point. Here there is an option, so right click on the any connector that you want to debug. For now, as the request is coming to the listener, I cannot keep debugger point at the source. Okay, you can keep debugger at only in the process phase. So I will keep it at the very first point here, add a breakpoint. So to debug an application, last time we have run the project, but this time we should not do the running of the project. We have to select the debug option here. Both are one and the same, running and debugging are one and the same, but debug will run at a time, like a whole process will be running, and finally you will see the output. Okay, so okay, first let me run and show you the difference between running and debugging the application. Though I kept the breakpoint here, but I have chosen the option run project, so it will not run in a debug mode. And if you see my Anypoint Studio on top, you have like 3 different icons here. That is the view of your application. Okay, view of your application. Currently we are in design mode. Okay, Mule design mode. If you are running in a debug mode, it will be in this state. Okay, so now it says like my status is failed. I know the reason why. If I go down, that is the use of console here to check what went wrong. It says like couldn't find the configuration property $of HTTP port. Okay, I know that because when we are deploying the application into cloud, we have configured this as $of HTTP.port. Again, about this $of HTTP.port or what is this dollar, we'll be seeing in our very next session. But for now, to run on local, I am using the common HTTP 8081 port. Click on OK. If your project option, if this check mark is there, the tick mark build automatically is checked, whenever you are saving some project, it will automatically redeploy your application. You don't have to stop and run the application again and again. Or if you are confused here, always what you can do is you can stop the application and run it. Okay, for now I didn't stop. You can see automatically it is running, and this time it won't show like deployed status as deployed, but it will be something different. It will say started app Apex Hours, your project name. Unlike previously we saw like status as deployed, right? That is when you are running for the first time. But when you are saving something, the application will restart and it will show something like this. Or if you are still confused, what you can do is you can always stop your application, run as many times as you want if you are confused or if it is not working. So don't waste your time in figuring out these kind of small issues. All right. Right now I am stopping the application just for your reference, and I am running it again. Now this time it will show status as deployed. Alright, so don't forget to observe the change that I have made. I removed http.port and I have given the value directly, hard-coded value I have given. So now you can see status as deployed. I told to use Postman tool for testing. This is the get method. I can use any kind of method because I didn't define any method in specific. Okay, doesn't matter if it is post, get or anything, because I didn't define anything. But if you are specifically defining a method, you have to use the same method. For now I will let it give like get. Again, HTTP port I have explained in the last session. You can just click on send. You can see the HTTP status code is 200 and you got the response as hello world, this is Ravanlingam. Alright, so what happened, you are still seeing the response here, whatever is there here, right? Earlier this transfer message was there here. Now because we are connecting these two flows using this flow reference, the request is coming from here, here to here and going here. So how to check that? For that we are going to use debug operation. Okay, so debug, again you can right click and click on debug, but people who are new, very new, I want to show you something. Do this option. Okay, click on run and select debug configurations. Okay, click on debug configurations. It will take you over here, and here you can click on Mule debug, this tab, and see the debug port. By default debug port runs on 6666 port. Okay, however in some machines it might not. So for now it is fine for me. I will click on debug, it will start debugging my application. But in some machines or in your laptops there might be issue because 6666 port is not available. If it is not available, what you can do is you can always use 4-digit random port number which is not running on your laptop. So you can give like 8565, 8688, whatever, 4 digits, but please make sure that it is not used by any other port. Okay, now you can see automatically it has switched, my view has changed because we are in debug mode. Now to see whether or not my application is deployed or not, how to do that? We have to always go to console. Whenever we are debugging, we will keep on waiting to see the logs appearing over here. No, this is something else. This is API Kit console, but we have to go to console and then you can check that status is deployed. Now that I added a breakpoint here, when you hit the same URL again, send the request, you can see there is a blue dotted line that is waiting over flow reference. The reason why it is waiting over here is because I have added the breakpoint here. That's why you can see still it is sending request. I am not receiving any full response like hello world, this is Ravanlingam. Why? Because this connector is not processed yet. The request is still here. One more thing I wanted to show you is this tab is very important, Mule debugger tab. This is where you can see everything. The whole Mule event can be seen over here. In the last session, we have discussed about Mule event. Mule event consists of Mule message plus variables plus error information. So now again Mule message is nothing but payload plus attribute. Okay, can you see here attributes on my session? On my debugger. Okay, so you can see all kind variables. There are no variables yet. That is why you can see 0 variables. Payload, I am not sending any input payload here. That's why it is empty. And attributes, this is what we are also going to see in our next, after flow reference we are talking about attributes. First let me give a little introduction about attributes. This we have already discussed in our previous session. We also know that attributes is part of Mule message. Okay, and attributes are nothing but it is the metadata information coming from the system we are connecting. I will show you what kind of information by default we are getting. And to access the value from your attributes, from your input, this is the syntax that we have to use, whatever I have highlighted in the green color. Attributes.requestPath or attributes.query. If you are passing query params, attributes.queryparams.name. If you are worried about syntax, don't worry about it because debug helps us to get the syntax. Okay, so don't worry about syntax. and attributes are replaced with new attributes or with no values whenever we are connecting to any external systems. This red I have highlighted in red point because this we are not going to discuss in this session, but whenever we are connecting, when we start connecting with Salesforce or database, you will understand how attributes are overridden. Okay, we are going to see that hands-on as well. So coming back, so you can see still it is in the sending request mode because we are in debug mode. Now here Mule debugger, you see attributes, payload and vars. So here to here this arrow mark is a Mule event. Okay, we discussed about what is Mule event, right? Mule event is nothing but the information that is being passed from one connector to the another connector in simple layman terms. Okay, Mule event, which is nothing but all these parts are called Mule event, is nothing but the information that is being transmitted from one connector to the another connector. Okay, now at this point of time, this flow reference is not yet processed. Whenever there is this is very important, you will get in the certification exam also. They will ask what is the value of so and so at this point. Okay, then you should not say like, you know what, I will show you that later, but right now we see attributes here and there is a drop down arrow mark here, so just expand it. Okay, now I told you like metadata. What is metadata? Okay, metadata, right? It is all the information. For example, there are a lot of things that you can see here, right? I'll pick few. Okay, for example, headers. If there are any headers that you are passing, like you can see this is the user agent, by default it is a postman, right? All these details, what is accepting, and you can see here, right? Whatever host and port we are passing, localhost 8081, those details are coming over here, right? So next, for example, local address, because it is a local host, it is 127.0.0.1, right? And listener path. For example, if you want to extract the value of this one, test, the value test, how you should get the value? You can always use this x plus y. I told you, right? Don't worry about the syntax, but this is the syntax. Always the data view expression will be between hash and square brackets, and whatever you are writing inside is what we have to figure out. So how to figure out? That is why again debugger helps you. Click on x plus y here. Okay, again if you click somewhere else, this x plus y will go. So click x plus y. This is the formula tab that we will use to. So this debug mode helps us to get the syntax, or whenever you are writing some code, right? If you are not sure about the syntax or something, you can make use of this debugging mode to get the response. Now let me pin, so let me click again back, and I want something like, I want to get the value of this, whatever I am passing, the test. So what I will do, go to x plus y, click on type attributes. Okay, evaluate. You will get here all the attributes here. Okay, you are getting all the details here. Let me go again, click on x plus y, attributes, click on evaluate. Now I want to get this test value. I told I want this value. So how to get, but now when I am evaluating this one, I am getting all the values, but I want only request path test. So I know I am seeing that the value test is here, but what is the key here? Okay, the key is listener.path. So that means attributes dot, you have to always, if you want to get the inner value, you need to use dot listener. Please make sure you are using the spelling and it is case sensitive. If I used a wrong spelling, and if I click on evaluate, it is giving null because there is no value with the key listener path. There is a spelling mistake. So now when I click here evaluate attributes at listener path, you are getting the test value. Likewise, if you are unsure, if you want some value, for example, if you want to know about the protocol, okay, I see that within attributes in the hierarchy, within attribute, or I wanted to know what is the method, right? So you can minimize this. So this is attributes has all values, and within that there is method called get. So simple, the syntax is attributes dot, again if you are not sure, click on evaluate and see where the method is. Here the get, right? Attributes dot method, and when you evaluate it, you will get only the value method get. Likewise, now For example, if you want some value within headers, for example, you want to know the host value, the whole host value, right? What you can do, this value is there within attributes, and within attributes it is headers, and within headers there is something called host. So see how I am writing, you have to observe this. Attributes, again attributes, you will get everything including headers, whatever, everything, method, query parameters, everything. But I want only the value which is there inside headers. So first let me click headers, type dot headers, click on evaluate. Now you see only the header values here, and again within headers I want the only value of this host. So then what I am doing, put another dot here and click on host. So it is attributes dot headers dot host. This is the syntax. You are not click on evaluate. Now you can see localhost 8081. You must be wondering like, why Shravan you are not using in your syntax you told hash and square brackets, you did like this, and why are you not doing here? Okay, you can use here, but already I am in this evaluate data view expression. Okay, data view expression, by default this square brackets and hash will be present. Okay, click on evaluate, you are getting this. Now what if I make this H capital uppercase and evaluate? It is still working, but for the worst case, please don't please make sure you are making use of whatever the names, case sensitive. Try to use the same thing. Sometimes it work or it may not work. So just if I use host, when I test it, it is still working, but please try to use the same name with all case sensitive things. Okay, this is how you have to extract the attributes. You will get to know more about attributes. Okay, but let's discuss about this stuff. So again you can see still my request is sending. I don't see hello world here, right? Because we are still here. Now to go to the next step, this is the icon that you have to click, that is called next processor. If you are using your Windows laptop, please click on F6. Okay, so that it will take you to the next step. Now when I click this, see what will happen. It is taking a bit of time because I took a lot of time for this to be displayed, but give it a second. Now you can see the blue dotted line came to my private flow on transform message. Okay, now you have to observe how things are moving from one place to another using debugger, right? And all the event information like payload, variables. So each time when we are processing, you have to cross check what is the payload at this point of time. You have to observe one more thing. Yesterday we have seen transform message is nothing but just like a set payload, right? Because here we are using payload. We will be discussing more about transform message in our next session. What is the difference between set payload and transform message? But you can see payload, hello Shravan Lingam. But you should ask me a question, Shravan, the payload is still showing empty. This is really important for you to understand because this comes in our examination, MCD level certification. Like they will show you a screenshot like the blue dotted line will be on some set payload or transformation. They will ask what is the value of payload at this point of time. So you will be in a hurry to answer and you will see, oh, set payload transfer message is set to this value, and in the options they will give you value of empty, and the next option will be like hello world Shravan Lingam, and you will keep hello world Shravan Lingam because you saw this dotted line on transfer message. You think that this is processed. No. Blue dotted line means it is in that particular step. It is not processed yet. Only once it is coming out of this connector, then only it is processed. Okay, so right now at this particular time, the dotted line, the payload is still empty, but when you click on next, after this connector there is no connector, correct? There is no other connector, so this means your flow is complete. The whole flow is complete. Okay, you can see I got hello world Shravan Lingam. Clear? So this is how you have to debug your application very fast. I will send the request again. So you have to observe, you have to click on Mule debugger, see the attributes, just observe the attributes, payloads and all. I don't have any payload at this point of time. Go next. It will come here because you are using flow reference. It is calling this one here, and you can go next. And as there is no connector after this, and again if there is any connector after this flow reference, it will come back to this point. Okay, I will show you in the next scopes. Okay, so this is Shravan Lingam. I got my response. So this is how you can use flow reference. This is how you have to debug your application. Okay, so I will now go back to my slides and see what is this. Okay, attributes, we have discussed what is attributes here. We have seen how to extract the syntax using debug mode. If you don't worry about syntax, you can always play around with x plus y expression that we have used there. Now variables. Variables is part of Mule event, not it is not part of Mule message. Again, there is a question that they might ask, what is the hierarchy of variables in a Mule event? Mule event is a hierarchy. Within Mule event, you have Mule message plus variables plus inner information. So variables lies in the Mule event hierarchy itself. Okay. So Mule 4, don't worry about Mule 3, don't worry about this statement. Earlier we used to have Mule 3, now it is deprecated. So don't worry about Mule 3. Mule 3 was more complicated because it has 3 different kind of variables like flow variables, session variables and record variables. But good that in Mule 4 we have only one kind of variable, that is called variable itself, simple variable. And it acts like flow, session, record based upon the requirement. So you don't have to use, in Mule 3 we had 3 different type of connectors like record variable, flow variable and session variable, but in Mule 4 we have only one connector. So now forget about Mule 3 and forget about this statement, we have only one variable. And these are used to preserve the information which you think might be useful at any point of flow. Okay, so if you want to store some information or something like that, you can always make use of set variable component, and to access that particular value, this is the syntax. Again, hash and square brackets are common, guys. That is the syntax, and whatever you're keeping inside is the vars is a syntax. Again, dot id, like if you're storing it with the name of id, it will be vars.id. If you're using my name like Sravan to store the variable, it is like vars.sravan. That's how it looks. And these variables are carried as long as the flow is connected. Okay, and if you think that this particular variable is no longer needed, you can always use remove variable component to remove it. All right, so this is how the variable component looks like, and we will see small hands-on on variables. Coming back to our same application, now what I will do is I will stop the application again. Okay, now I am on a debug mode. If I am in a debug mode, I won't be able to see my Mule palette and all. Even you will face the same issue, so don't worry about it. Just click this icon here, blue color icon. Right now we are in debug mode, which is like green color icon, but if you want to go to the development mode or design mode, click on this blue color icon. You will get your screen back. Okay, this is really important. Now again, I told you, right, to store some information, what you can do is you can use set variable component. You can see already there is a set variable in my palette. If you don't find it, you know what to do. Always type variable. You can see set variable component. Now I am just dragging and dropping here. Okay, just I am keeping it before flow reference. I just wanted to show you. These are very simple example. So I am not showing any real-time use case. I am just explaining all these things for you to understand the concept. Okay, set variable. Again, display names, guys, always I suggest to give some meaningful names. Okay, so display name, what I will say is storing fruit name, something. Okay, now this name, whatever is name you are using here, make sure you are using the same. For example, I told you in my slide, for example, like vars.id, here id, which means what you have to do here, you have to give id so that you can use like that. Okay, for now I will give like fruit name, fruitname, fruit name. Value, whatever value you want to give. For example, I wanted to store this fruit name like apple. Okay, so you can either directly write apple here, but I would suggest always to use fx. And when you are using fx, please don't forget to give within double quotes, or else what it will think is when you are enabling this fx expression, you can see by default it is within data view expression because it is having hash, square brackets, opening and closing. Whatever is there within here, the same thing, right? Hash, square brackets, that's what it is there, hash, square brackets. Here I am not using double quotes because it is a syntax, but apple is a value, so value should always be in double quotes, and type apple and save it. Okay, now again I will make use of this I will remove the breakpoint here. You can right click on the same connector, remove it here. I will keep the breakpoint here because I wanted to know how the event is flowing from one place to another, right? So this is what events. Now what will happen? I will right click and click on debug application. Again it will go into debug mode. Now whenever I am clicking, so let me send the application. Whenever I am sending the request, okay, the request comes here. The Mule event, when I say Mule event, it is the combination of payload, attributes, variables and error information. Right now there is no error, so you won't find error information. So it's payload, attributes and events. Sorry, payload, attributes and variables. Three things that will pass from one connector to the another connector. That is nothing but the event. Okay. Now you should be knowing the concept of what is Mule event. Okay, Mule event is nothing but the whole information that is being passed from one processor to the another processor or one connector to the another connector. Again, I told you when I was doing hands-on, right? We don't, whenever debugging, we don't know whether it is deployed or not because we will be in the wrong tab. Click on console tab and see now the status is deployed. Now go back and hit the request again. Now you can see the debugger point is here, and if you go to debugger, you remember we have set some variable called apple, so you have to see the value apple. I don't see it. Why I don't see the variable? Because all variables will be here. Why I am not seeing it? Because the dotted line is still on variable. It has not been processed. So you will get another question in your certification exam. What is the value of variable at this point of time? They will show this blue dotted line here, and you will immediately choose the option apple because you think that it has processed. No, but when I click next, when the blue dotted line is in this place, that means this is processed. Now you can see where size is 1, which means if you expand it, you can see apple fruit name here. Okay, so this blue dotted line concept is very important for certification purpose. Okay, so now you can see that variable here, right? So now whenever you want to use this variable in your coming flows or something, you can feel free to use it. Again, if you want to know what is the syntax to use, if I just want to know, I just wanted to get the apple name. So for that, again, you can make use of x plus y vars dot, what is the name that we have given? Fruit name. Okay, that is how all syntax are very simple in MuleSoft. It is all about, like, if it is payload, it will be payload dot. If it is attributes, it is attribute dot. If it is vars, it is vars dot. Very simple. Okay, click on evaluate. You are getting apple here. What if I am giving wrong name, like vars dot Shravan, and evaluate? It will give null because there is no variable that we saved on the name of Shravan. Or the same thing, like here in the slides I have shown, like vars.id. Let me try vars.id. It will give null because I didn't save this name as id. I saved the name as fruit name. So whatever is there, just copy this, go here in the Mule debugger, and after processing this component only, you will see the value. Okay, vars.fruit name, you are getting this. Again, okay, you can see all the attributes, payload, whatever is there is carrying here. Go to next. As you are using flow reference here, it is coming to this flow because this particular flow reference is calling the private flow with this name. It is going here, and go next. Here also you can see at this point of time also you are seeing the variable, because variable, we didn't remove variable. It keeps on carrying from listener to this one as long because that is the statement that I have given. Vars are carried as long as the flow is connected. Here the flow is connected. How? Using flow reference. That's why the value is still present. And go to next. Hello world, this is Ravanlingam. We are not seeing any fruit name here because we are not using actually. Whatever response you are seeing outside is always the last payload value that is being set. Okay. For now, I will delete the transfer message connector. Let me go to my design mode to start coding again. Instead of using transfer message, I will explain later, but you can always use set payload connector. Okay, set payload. I will give hello world. This is Ravanlingam. Okay, as I told, you can always save it. It will start redeploying again. You can see it will automatically, I didn't stop the application, but it will redeploy if you are saving it. Okay, yep, it is done because I can see started app with my project name. Now see, let's go send it the request again. It will automatically take you to the debug mode. Okay, go next. Payload is nothing but the transfer, whatever transfer message you are seeing, it will be the same, and go to next. You can see the same message, hello world, this is Shravanlingam. Now we came to know about set variables, right? How to use set variables. You can add as many set variables as you want. Okay. Now what is the next one? Logger. Okay, logger, it is very simple component. This logger you might have heard. If you're already a Salesforce developer, you know what is logging and what are loggers. If you're not from Salesforce, or if you're not from a non-IT background, for those who are not from non-IT background, loggers are just for logging the information for our tracking purpose. It has nothing to do with any kind of coding, or I mean you have to write something for to display something, but it has nothing to do with the processing or any doing it. It's just for visible to, logs are appeared on the console. Okay, if I go back, so first let's see what are the mandatory configuration details required. Nothing is mandatory. You can set anything in the message field. Okay, let's see the hands-on without wasting time. So here, if you go to console, whatever you are seeing, all this text are loggers. All this text are loggers. Now see, we are in a debug mode. We know that value is like Apple. By checking, like whenever you are sending the information here, you are able to see like whatever here I don't see because I am still, the blue dotted line is still on variable. I will go next. I know because I am using debug mode, I can see that it is Apple. But what if but this is on our local, right? But once your application is deployed, I will stop the application. Okay, and now I will run in a run mode, not debug mode but run mode. I will click on the design here. Okay, in run mode it will directly give the output here. We don't have to wait for it. Okay, see, when the application is still running and if you're trying to click send, it will give error because this is not in deployed state yet. Only this will work only if your application is deployed successfully. Let's wait for the application to be deployed. Sometimes your laptops will be slow, it will take more time, so don't worry. Okay, as long as you see status as deployed, you should be fine. So now if I click send, immediately I will get the response because we are not in a debug mode, we are in a run mode. Now how to know whether this variable Apple, the variable name Apple is stored or not, right? We don't know, right? Because I don't see anywhere. So we have to log that value. Okay, how to do that? That is the reason if you log it here, it will be displayed here. Like how you see like status as deployed, because someone who developed this tool had loggers to display this information. So we have to do the same thing for our use case. Okay, so now there is a logger component, search for logger. Okay, this is the logger component, drag and drop somewhere. Okay, I will click on here. Now I wanted to log I told you, right, there is only one. So what are the mandatory configuration details? There is nothing mandatory here, so it is still fine if you keep empty, but there is no use if you are keeping it empty, correct? But you can set the value anything in the message field. So this is the message field. Now I wanted to display the value of this, like I should get Apple. Okay, that means I have to use the syntax here. What is the syntax to display? Again, always use fx. By default it will be in hash or square brackets. If so, now here to extract the variable value, I showed you the syntax is vars dot. If you click dot, automatically it is giving some suggestions because already you have stored this variable here, so it will give suggestion. Even if you don't have suggestion, sometimes in some studios due to some glitches you might not be able to see the names, but you can always copy this, go to the logger, double click on the logger, vars dot, paste it. Okay, here. Now there is one thing between this fx and all. If you are enabling fx, you can just directly write vars.proName. But if you are not writing this fx here, what will happen? This will print as a string. So if you are not clicking on fx, then the syntax is you have to manually write like this. Okay, then why to write manually when there is an option here already, correct? You can click on fx, this will give. Now you can save it. My application will restart. I can clear the console here. okay, using this option. Now you will observe one thing when I ran. Okay, my application is started. Okay, I want to clear my console. I don't want all this information, so I will click on this icon. This is clear console. It will be plain. Now if I click on send, I received hello world Sravanlingam, but you can see Apple is displayed over here. Can you see here? Why Apple is displayed? Because we have used logger component here to display this value, whatever is there in variable. Got it? So now you must be knowing the importance of logger. It is just to show, because we are in running mode, we don't know whether it is saved or not, right? So Apple, how did it print Apple? Because it is extracting the value by using this syntax vars.fruit name. All right. Again, if you want to see how it works in a debug mode, you can always stop the application, clear the console, right click, debug, and once it is deployed, you can test it. All this information that is printing in the console is loggers. That is only for our tracking purpose, step by step where we are and all. Okay. I'll tell you one interesting thing also, like exam point of view, what are the questions that they are asking. So you can see status is deployed and successfully started. I will clear the console so that it will be like empty. When I click send, so here we are in still variable. You can see you are not seeing Apple here. Why? Because the logger is here. Still your debug mode, the processor is here, right? The dotted line is here. That means the logger is not. It will go step by step. All Mule flows will go step by step, one by one. Okay. Go to next. Okay, now you can see vars.fruit name as Apple, but still if you go to console, then nothing is printed. You must be thinking again, there might be a question asked, what is the value of, if they ask like question is, what is the logger value that is printed here, and they will give the syntax, the screenshot of this vars.fruit name. You will think that blue dotted line is on the logger component. It is executed. No, it is not yet executed. And you will give the option just like, Apple. No, it is not printed yet. But they will ask another question. This is a tricky question. They will ask, what is the value of the variable name? It is Apple, because they didn't ask what is the value that is printed. Okay, they are asking what are the variables that are present at this point of time. When I say at this point of time, when the blue dotted line is on the logger component, as that variable is processed, you will be having one variable. Okay, so now I will go to the console. I'll click on next. I will click on next. This logger is now processed, so now you can see console, it is printed. Apple is printed here. Okay, again you can just go to next and complete the flow here. All right. Now you will see one more simple observation you have to see. Go to the design mode, click here and drag and drop another logger. You can keep as many loggers as you want, and I will keep one logger after flow reference, and you will see how the event is flowing here. Okay, till now what we have seen like listener, it is coming here, flow reference, going to set payload and ending the flow, and you are getting the response. But flow reference is just to connect the flows, but if there is any other component after flow reference, it will continue. That means it's just like, one person is coming, someone sends the request, he went here, he asked another person to check with him, so he checked with him and came back here, and he will continue the process. That's how it works. Okay, my application has restarted automatically. So now I will send the request, observe the things. Okay, next, here by this time your logger is printed with Apple. Go to debugger, next, set payload, and now it will not give you a response immediately. It will go to this point. Now you can see blue dotted line came back after this flow reference, because your process is whatever is there in this private floor, all the connectors are executed there, and it is coming back after the flow reference. So it will process another one. You can still see this, it is in sending request mode. Okay, go to next, and now you can see the response. Here I am not giving anything, but you can write, say like, end of the main flow. I can give something. I can give some tracking for tracking purpose, right? end of the main flow. Alright, let me see if it is restarting. So that is the reason of using loggers. Okay, now for our next concept, that is scope of attributes, payloads and variables, this will help, our loggers will help. It is restarted. Let me send the request again. Okay, go to next, 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 next. You can see only apple is printed. This value is not, whatever I have given here, end of main flow, is not printed yet because it is, the blue dotted line is still on the component. That means it is not executed yet. But if you click, as this is the last component, you will get the response, and in the console you must be seeing end of main flow. Okay, whatever we have written here, it is displaying here. All right, one more thing, again I will send the request here. You saw like attributes and all, right? You are not seeing any query parameters here because query parameters are 0 because I am not passing any query parameters. I have explained you in the designing of APIs how to pass query parameters. The syntax for passing query parameters is, first let me complete this one. Unless until you complete this flow, you will not get the response here. Okay, now I told you, right, you have to pass query parameters using question mark. Okay, you can keep question mark, and you can use some anything like, you know, technology equal to MuleSoft. Okay, this is my query parameter, the value is MuleSoft, this is key. Whenever you have like a equal to b or something like this, this is called key, this is called value. Okay, these are very simple terms. These are the keys and these are the values. To get this value, we have to make use of this key to extract the syntax. Now if you observe, click on send. As usual, you will see attributes, payload, vars, but in attributes last time the query parameters were 0 because we are not passing anything. But can you observe something here in query parameters? Expand that. Whenever you see this icon, that means there is something else. Technology equal to MuleSoft. Can you see this? That is the that is how you have to extract the value of query parameters. I told you, right, metadata information like query parameters, URI parameters, headers, all will be present under attributes. Again, to extract only MuleSoft word, right, click on X plus Y. You know what to do. First, if you are not sure about the syntax directly, go step by step. First, attributes. Okay, in attributes, scroll down here, you see query params, right? Now dot query params, evaluate. Now it is showing size 1, not the value MuleSoft. Why? Because there is a key here, right? Dot technology. Click on. Now you are getting the value MuleSoft. If I give some wrong name like Sravan, no, it will give null value. Or if you are giving MuleSoft is the value, not the key. It's still giving null. Okay, refer by the name what we have given, the key, then you will get MuleSoft. Okay, this is the syntax. Now copy. Now you are good with the syntax, right? Copy. Now you can see that attributes are going like the same attributes, like, you know, query params. The MuleSoft is carried everywhere. Even at this last point of time, I can see technology MuleSoft. Only thing when it will get erased is in our PPT I told, like, attributes are replaced with new or no values when we connect to any external systems. That means if you are connecting to a database, or if you are connecting to a Salesforce, or if you are connecting using HTTP requester, then it will override with the new values, or if there are no new values, it will give null. Okay, for now I am resuming. You can see hello world, this is Ravanlingam. Okay, now till now whatever you see here, now I will change something like this. Okay, name, I will give name equal to MuleSoft. Now I will change my business requirement. I will say that I give a business requirement like hello world, this is, and this value should be dynamic. Whatever you are passing in your input should be displayed over here. Right now if I send this request, even if you are passing name equal to MuleSoft, okay, every time I run it next and complete, it will give Sravanlingam. But I want like the hello world, this is MuleSoft. How to do that? That is where you will make use of this set payload. Okay, go to set payload here. For now This is, I am hard coding the value Sravanlingam. What I will do is I will remove everything here till this is, okay, I'll give a space, and to add something, right, to add any two strings, we will use plus plus symbol, that is concatenation. Don't worry, I will explain you this syntaxes in data view session also. For now you can simply use plus plus symbol. And what is the syntax that we have to use to extract this value? We have already copied, right? I already copied, I can paste it. If you're not, if this is very small for you, just click on this mapping symbol, it will enlarge. Okay, don't worry about this red dotted line here. It will show you like an error message because it will think, it is thinking that it is null. Okay, but here there is a small mistake. Okay, this is not technology because now I changed this name to, you know, name. So copy this whatever is there here and paste it. Okay, hello world, this is add plus plus attributes dot query parameters dot name. Okay, save it, the application will restart now. Alright, this is started because I see started app. If you are still having issues, you can always stop by clicking on this red icon and you can run it. Okay, so now I am sending this information, whatever is there. Now you can see earlier it was like technology MuleSoft, but if you open the attributes, if you open the query parameters, here the name equal to MuleSoft. So next, okay, sometimes your studio behaves weird because it is like too heavy, it will take some time, so don't worry, have some patience. You will get lot of, so before learning MuleSoft you will learn how to be patient. I'm just kidding. Okay, next, till here the payload value is empty, right? Till here the I didn't show this point earlier, but when you go to the next component, when you are in logger component, as we are setting some payload, you can see hello world, this is MuleSoft. Still your process is still running because we didn't complete the process, but here itself, as we are in debug mode, now you can see three different values for three different things which are part of Mule event. Again, I am iterating what is Mule event because that is really important concept. Mule event equal to, just like understand like a formula, Mule event equal to Mule message plus variables. So keeping variables, okay, you saw variables, that is fruit name we have given, forget about it. Then what is Mule message? Mule message is nothing but payload plus attributes. This is the combination. Okay, now you saw payload because payload is set here. You can see the payload value. We have some attributes coming from the request input, and there are some variables that is set here. Now if you go to next, you can see hello world, this is MuleSoft. This is not giving Sravanlingam. Okay, now I will say like hello world, I will send Apex hours. I will send the request. Next, now I won't look at the values also, I know what it is going to be. Hello world, this is Apex hours. Okay, right? So whatever you give here, hello world, hello Apex hours, hello, this is like again like Sravanlingam here. Click on send. If you don't want to go step by step every time, you can always use this operation, resume operation. Just click it, it will give hello world, this is Sravanlingam. So this is called dynamic. Okay, next one more thing, usually why we use variables is for this reason. Okay, fruit name we are not utilizing anywhere here, so what you can do is you can remove this variable, delete it, stop the application, go to your development mode. I will use another variable to store because I don't want to, whenever I want to use every time, I don't want to always use attributes dot query parameters dot name. Okay, sometimes your attributes will be wiped off. Okay, that's the reason we have to store these kind of informations like attribute information inside a variable, so that you don't have to worry about when it is lost. So set variable, drag and drop. I'll try to make use of copy paste things. So what I will do is I will copy the whole syntax here, I will save it here itself. I will give some like name and click on FX and paste it, so that next time when you're, so again display name is very important, storing name. Okay, don't use display name as syntax. Okay, in set payload, what instead of now writing attributes dot query parameters dot name every time, what I can use is, already I am using the variable here with name, I can click plus plus vars dot name. Okay, vars dot name, that will help you to store the value here. Now you can see I will debug the application. I want everyone to do this hands-on because this is the basics of development, and if you are very good at these parts, right, if you are very good at debugging, and if you are very good at, we use almost the same connectors most of the time, set variable, set payload, logger, flow reference, right? If you are good at these basics, you will do very well, trust me. Okay, now I am sending the request again. You can see, oh, you can see that I got the response immediately because I haven't run in I didn't add any breakpoint here. That's why it is not stopping. It is just running like a run mode only. Though I have started my application in a debug mode, it is behaving like a run mode. Why? Because I am not using any breakpoint. But if I right click, even when your application is up and running, and if you can add breakpoint at any point of time. Now you can see it will not give immediately the response because I put a break here. It's just like putting a break. Okay, so you have to always observe again, like attributes here. So next, you can see the payload now. Hello world, this is Ravanlingam is coming, because now I am not using attributes blah 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 blah. I'm just using vars.name. You can still use attributes dot query parameters dot name because I can still see the query parameters because it is not overridden, because I am not connecting to any external systems yet. Okay, that's why. So you can see Ravanlingam. Now the heading here shows like scope of attributes, payload and variables. There are some certification questions. There are some questions that might be asked in your MCD level 1, maybe 3 to 4 questions just on the scope of variables. What do you mean by scope of variables? Okay, the question will be like this. Imagine they will give you a screenshot and something like this, and give you a blue dotted line here, like on the logger. Okay, blue dotted line, and they will give you these minimum things like what they are setting the variable name, or what they are setting in the set payload and all. They will give like 2-3 screenshots they will give, or they might give the XML. So I told you, right, whatever you are rising, the graphical view will be converted into XML here. Okay, so they will give you the XML part of this, like how, like set variable, you can see set variable, attributes dot query parameters, everything is converted, and hello world plus plus vars dot name, they will give in the XML view also. And they will give this screenshot with blue dotted line on logger. They will ask a question like, at this point of time, what are the values of payload, variables and query parameter attribute name? So the options will be A, payload is empty, vars is like variable name equal to Ravanlingam, and attribute query parameter. They will not ask all the attributes, but they will ask like what is the query parameter name equal to. So at this point of time, I can see still my name equal to Ravanlingam attribute, the query parameter is still present. Okay, and I can see the payload value is hello world, this is Ravanlingam, because it has we are using flow reference connector. It is going here, it has completed its processing, and we are on this part. Okay, so hello world Ravanlingam is there, and variable names Ravanlingam, because we didn't remove this variable, will be carried as long as the flow is connected. So your option will be like whichever option has all 3 values with 3 names, whatever the values is, that will be your right option. Another options will be like payload will be empty. They will show like payload equal to empty. No, at this point of time, at this point of blue dotted line, the payload is not empty because we are setting some payload here. Okay, and resume it. Another screenshot what they can give. So they will keep like, at next question will be like this. They will keep that blue dotted line here, and they will ask what are the values that are present. Now attributes query parameters, yes, it is there. So you can see the option with name equal to Shravanlingam, and another options they will keep like variable name equal to Shravanlingam. No, the variable name the variables are 0. No variable is set here because the blue dotted line is still on variable name. It is not going into the next processor. When this blue dotted line is on this logger, then only the set variable is processed, then you can see the name. And payload is empty, but in options they will give you hello world Shravanlingam in the options, just to confuse you, because we are still at this the blue dotted line, the debug mode is still at this process. To set this payload, it has to go here, then here, then here, and the blue dotted line is, when the blue dotted line is here, then only this payload values. So in this case we have only query parameter attributes value, the variable and payload is empty. So these kind of tricky questions will be there. Okay, so please don't be in a hurry to answer fast. Okay, again, if the question is like this, if the dotted line is this, blue dotted line is there, you can see attributes is there, query parameters, okay, and also variable, because this is processed now, but still the payload is empty because we didn't process it yet. Most tricky question is they will keep the dotted line here and they will give in the options like what is the payload value, but still my payload value is empty. This is not processed. I am stressing this point again and again because you don't have to you should not make any mistake in the certification exam. Whenever the blue dotted line is on that connector, it is not processed yet. This syntax is not processed. Whenever it is going to next connector, then it is processing. Then you can see hello world Shravanlingam. Okay, so this is the scope of variables, payload and attributes. Okay, so guys, today we have discussed about how to debug an application in Anypoint Studio, flow reference, hands-on, attributes and variables, set variables, payload, logger component, and we have observed the scope. Okay, please follow us on all the social media of Apex Servers, as well as my YouTube channel MuleSoft-TechZone. And guys, in our very next session, which is like developing APIs part 3, we will be discussing something more about scope of attributes, payload and set payload and variables. Also we will be seeing about, you remember I was talking about dollar of http.port. What is that dollar? That is called configuration properties. We will be discussing about that part in our very next session. And whatever, this session is really helpful for you to crack certification exam, and these are very basics, so I want you guys to do hands-on along with me. So don't forget to download Anypoint Studio and Postman tool. Postman is for testing purpose, so these two are really mandatory. Okay, I hope you like this session. We will see you in the next session. Thank you.